trying to get her through a pregnancy without any COVID. So, as you all know, grandchildren are a lot of fun. Um, I am a risk manager for Shook Construction here in Dayton. We're a large general contractor doing work in about 6 different states. So again, it's a pleasure to be here. I bring you good tidings from President Holger Knock. Holger and his wife Suzanne are from Germany. I actually had the pleasure of meeting them a couple of times in different training events, but what was most memorable to me was sharing a couple beers with them at an event that I went to in Fort Wayne in October of 2019. Just getting to know them a little bit. I'm always surprised how well Europeans speak English, sometimes better than us Americans. Interestingly, they've never had any children of their own, but they have welcomed 26 inbound youth exchange students. So youth exchange youth is very important to him. He's also very much into Rotaract and encourages Rotaract in our communities. And I know you have a Rotaract club, so thank you for that. I also bring good tidings from Floyd Lancey and his wife, Betty Lou. They live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's our Rotary International Director. He represents us all at the Rotary Board of Trustees. I don't know if you're aware, but our district has 47 clubs, ranging from Bell Fountain south to the Ohio River, west to the Indiana border, and east to about London, Ohio, Urbana, kind of that eastern edge there up against the nearby Columbus. And we're part of what's called Zone 30, and 2 zones put together have one Rotary International Director, and that's Floyd. And there are 31 districts and 64,000 Rotarians in our 2 zones. But anything we want to have taken to Rotary International, we do that through Floyd, but he sends us good tidings as well. This year's theme, Rotary Opens Opportunities, and what I'd like to do is just take a few moments and share with you what the Rotary Opportunities Rotary Opens Opportunities means to me, what I hope it means to you, what I hope it means to your club, and what I hope it means to your community. And I guess when I think about what opportunities I've had in Rotary, probably the #1 thing for me is friendship and fellowship. And I see it in your club too. I saw it when we all got on a little early and everybody was chit-chatting and figuring out how to catch up on everything. And when I was club president, we had a speaker that came into the club one day and was talking about some mental health issues. And I had a immediate family member who was suffering from these conditions. And I don't know why, but at the end of the speech, I stood up in front of my club and told my story. And I guess I felt like I wanted to bring it home to my club and let them, from a personal standpoint. And actually, I broke down crying in front of my club. Imagine a grown man standing in front of 150 club members, kind of sobbing and trying to tell a story. And you know what I really appreciated about that is my club members came up to me afterwards and said, "How can we help?" And to this day, 7 years later, they're still saying, "How is that family member doing?" And you just don't get that in many places, right? We get it with our close friends. We get it from our family, but we all know we get it from Rotary. Those kinds of well wishes and best wishes. I also appreciate the opportunities we give young people. When we think about youth exchange, isn't it really cool that we send kids out of our district to other countries to learn culture and study in those schools? And likewise, bring kids from other countries into our district and let them learn our culture and learn under our education and get to see all the great American, the great historical sites and things like that, or monuments around the country. I just think that really goes a long way towards peace and understanding. But we have other youth areas as well. We have interact clubs, 7th grade through 12th grade. We have Rotaract, which is, as 18 to 30-year-olds or college-based. We also do Rotary RILA, which is Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, where we bring 100 kids together and at Camp Kern and teach them leadership skills over a weekend. Unfortunately, we intended to have that in April of 2020, got canceled due to COVID. I rescheduled it for October of 2020, canceled it due to COVID, rescheduled it to April of 2021. I've canceled it due to COVID. And so we're going to try it again in October, but I certainly cannot put 100 kids and a bunch of adults in cabins at Camp Kern and be a super spreader of COVID. Four-way speech, it's another youth activity where, the youth get the opportunity to apply the four-way speech to a 4 to 6 minute speech. We are going to go ahead. We just decided we're going to go ahead and do that. Wright State University will not host us this year for an in-person event due to COVID. We're going to do a virtual event. So expect to hear more. Dan, you'll be getting something from the district here towards the end of this week, kind of outlining the process. We'd love for you to participate and get your kids interested in participating in that contest. I'm also really appreciative of the opportunity we Rotarians have taken to solve polio around the world. In 1952, there were 35,000 polio cases in this country. Now a lot of people don't even know what young people don't even know what polio is, right? And, it's still endemic in 2 countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And as you probably saw, Rotary announced that Nigeria was deemed polio-free last October of 20. So now all of Africa is polio-free. That's due to the work of all of us and the money that we contribute to Polio Plus. And, Rotary says if we stop immunizing, we could have 250,000 new polio cases around the world within 10 years. And you might ask, well, how can that happen? And all I got to say is 25 million COVID cases in the US in a year, right? If we can spread things around the world that quickly, we could certainly spread polio around the world as well. So we still have to continue to do the vaccinations or, distribute the drops in countries like Mexico and South America and Africa and Pakistan and India and certainly dangerous Afghanistan. Still a $5 billion project, folks. And so you guys have contributed to Polio Plus and we appreciate that. COVID. I am really proud of our clubs and all that other clubs have done to help with the COVID situation. I don't think I think every club in the district has done something. It could be PPE, protection equipment. It could be food. It was food pantries. It was delivering food. It was helping first responders. It was just a number of things that have taken place in our district. And, what I'm suggesting to clubs on the COVID kind of going forward, and I don't know if this will work or not, but could we as clubs have almost like a COVID blood drive? By that, I mean, instead of having blood collection, could we do a COVID vaccination event? Could we help with the COVID? There's a lot of phone calls and stuff. You all talked about it, right? You get on a list, you hope you get a call. It's hard to get through. Could we help the counties with those kinds of things? Could we help with drive-through COVID stations by, directing traffic or providing food? Could we get on the phones? Could we bring a pharmacist into our meetings and give vaccines to our members? Or invite guests to come in and also get vaccines? I mean, are those things possible? I don't know. I know there's a lot of confusion around the state and the counties about how to do all of this, but maybe as the mass vaccinations start to take place, there might be an opportunity. So maybe you might want to reach out to your county and ask them if there's a way to help. I also appreciate the opportunities we give to our local communities and schools with basic education, literacy, things like dictionary projects, summer reading programs. Dayton Club does water safety education. I know you guys, I've seen the announcements and I'm really pleased about your healthcare internship that you're going to do at McCullough Hyde. I know we gave you a district grant to help support that. What a wonderful opportunity to help a couple young persons learn more about the healthcare field and become involved in that in the future. And if I have my information correct, you also have the Hefner Fund scholarships. Is that right? And then you also have an Oxford literacy team. So congratulations and good work on all of that. And then I also appreciate the opportunity we help with safety and health of local families. Our clubs do food baskets and holiday dinners, and clubs build bunk beds for children who otherwise would be sleeping on the floor. And if I also have my information right, I know you guys are associated with the Oxford Park and Recreation for swimming lessons, and you have the Talawanda Oxford Pantry and Social Services. So thank you for that as well. I don't know if you're aware, Rotary has a new area of focus. It's called enhancing the environment. So it's now going to allow for global grants to be used in enhancing the environment. Things like all the plastic that's floating in the oceans or LED lighting, things to overall enhance the environment around the world. And I would argue, or I would say that your community flag program, which sounds really successful, is a way of enhancing the environment. whether it's an environment, the physical environment that we think about, but I think about it enhancing our social and political environment. Just, having honor for our flag and for our country. Thank you for doing that. And then lastly, I'm really proud of the opportunities we've taken to provide clean water and sanitation around the world. Our district is really good at providing clean water around the world. We have several clubs that get involved in water projects. Right now, Ron Hollenbeck from Centerville is working on a project to put water pumps in Malali. We're working with our entire district, District 6690, which is Columbus and Southeast Ohio. When it's all said and done, if approved, it's going to be a $350,000 global grant project through Rotary International. And I know Westchester Liberty working on a project in Mexico, or wants to work on a project in Mexico. So we're just really good at that as a district, and we have lots of great people who know how to get that done. With that said, I think there's also some opportunities for us Rotarians and for our district. 10 years ago, we had 52 clubs and 3,100 Rotarians in our clubs. As I sit here today, we have 47 clubs and just over 2,600 Rotarians. So we've had 4 clubs that have folded within the last 2.5 years. And then we had one club, which was in Marysville, decided they wanted to be part of the Columbus area district because a lot of the folks live there. So we let them secede, if you will, from us and move over there. But despite the loss of clubs and some members, there's a couple more important statistics I want to share with you. In the last 5 years, we had 217 persons join our clubs in our districts and quit within the first year of membership. And we had another 515 persons join our clubs in our districts in the last 5 years and quit within their second year of membership. That being said, we had over 700 people who were Rotarians and quit within 2 years of membership. And I'm like, how can that happen? Why do we let that happen? How do we stop it, right? And I really think it comes down to the engagement. I think that clubs that do a really good job of engaging new Rotarians, getting them actively involved from the minute they walk in the door as a new member is key to keeping those members engaged. There's a question that I'm asking every Rotarian, and I'm asking you today. Are you greatly interested in Rotary? Are you greatly interested in Rotary? And if not, why not? Ask yourself, why not? Look down deep inside and say, why am I Rotarian? Why do I come to meetings? Or why do I stay a Rotarian? Or what would cause me to leave? And just as important, if not more important, if you are greatly interested in Rotary, which I suspect you all are because you're here today, share that message. Tell your story. Tell people not necessarily why you join Rotary, but why you stay in Rotary. Because that's the message we need to have engagement around our members and our clubs to help them want to continue to be Rotarians. I think it's a value proposition too. I'll give you an example. My own club, we prepay for our meals. By the way, we've only met virtually since this whole COVID thing started, but we meet at Sinclair on Mondays generally. We prepay our lunches, which are about 16 or 17 bucks. You don't show up, you lose your meal money. But when it's all said and done, dues and meals about $1,300 a year. We had a young lady, 25-year-old pharmacist in Dayton. She had been an outbound youth exchange, so she knew all about Rotary and what it offered her as a youth outbound exchange. She came to our club and said, I'd like to get involved. I want to join your club. She came to the orientation. They told her the dues were $260. She heard it as $260 a year instead of $260 a quarter. She came to the first meeting, got her first bill, saw it was $260 a quarter and said, I can't afford that, and quit within 90 days. And despite my concern about her quitting, my club has done nothing to make sure that she could find a way to get her back. I guess when it comes to cost of the clubs, what I want clubs to consider is what's that value proposition for the money, and as members, we have to consider how much does it cost us to belong, and is it valuable to us? I suppose that, most people who are working probably eat out lunch every day. But if it's I don't know if they spend $16, but I suppose someone would spend $16 to sit with a good friend and have a lunch. And so if we make our Rotarians feel like good friends, then maybe they're willing to pay that $16. Or, as I told my club, or I'm trying to encourage my club, why don't we charge dues that cover the club's expenses? Because we have a full-time administrative person, and then only charge those who want to eat the cost to eat. That's a different model, right? It's helping to find a way to keep members encouraged and see the value of their membership. So those are a couple ideas. What Holger Canuck is asking every club and throughout Rotary to do is to have at least one strategic meeting this year to sit down as a club and talk about where are you at now and where will you be in 3 years and how will you get there. So to the extent you can do that, if you haven't done that, I would encourage you to do that. Just have an honest conversation among your members in a club assembly or something else, and get the pulse of the club and where you're headed and how you're going to get there. I know COVID's made it a little difficult. I myself, my wife, both had COVID. We're 2 weeks post-COVID. Fortunately, it was mild, but I realized that it's hard for us to come together, and we should continue to be remote at least till we get more vaccinations out there. Another area of concern for me is leadership. I want to make sure that clubs are doing everything they can to develop leaders for continuity, and that leaders are working through. In other words, the president and the president-elect, the immediate past, and the club board are all working together, strategically looking forward and working together. That's an issue both at the club and a lot of clubs. I'm not saying necessarily your club, I'm just speaking globally across the district. It's also an issue at the district. We need help at the district, much like you need help in the clubs. We have fewer and fewer people doing more and more and more, and that's true in a lot of clubs. We just need to get everybody to pitch in and help with that. But find those who are new to your club, encourage them to become leaders, teach them to become leaders in your club, and then allow them to lead your club. The last area I want to talk about is, I'd be remiss if I didn't, is the Rotary Foundation. It is the financial engine that allows us to do what we do worldwide in Rotary. So I don't know if you're aware of how the math works, but let's assume that this year, all of us together donate $200,000 to the annual fund. And 3 years from now, that $200,000 is put aside for our district essentially. So 100,000 of that, or half of that, is set aside directly for the district. Half of the 100,000 or $50,000 is set aside for what we call district grants. Those are your local matching grants. That's where the money came from to match your internship. Okay. The other 50,000 is put into what's called district designated funds, and that money is used for the district's match for clubs that want to do global grants. The other $100,000 is retained by Rotary International and used across all global grants. So this year, our district was able to give $50,000 worth of local district grants, including yours, because Rotarians 3 years ago had donated $200,000 to the annual fund. As I sit here today, our clubs together, all us together, our members, have donated $70,000 to the annual fund. If we get no more contributions, 3 years from now, instead of having $50,000 to give to clubs, we'll have $17,500. So we're strongly encouraging everyone to continue to give to the Rotary Annual Fund. Your club does a great job. In 2018, 2019, your club gave just over $4,900 to the annual fund. When I say your club, I mean you and your members, okay? In 2019, 2020, you and your members gave $2,875, and year to date, a great $2,825. Great work. Thank you very much for that. You guys are helping lead the district in that area. So thank you for that. I encourage you to continue. Polio is the second part of our TRF giving. And Holger had asked every club to do at least a $1,500 donation to Polio Plus. I'm pleased to report that you have done your $1,500 this year, you and your members. So thank you for that. Good job. The mission's not over, but for every dollar you give to polio, Gates Foundation is going to add another $2. So we Rotarians have to raise $50 million together. And when we do that, Gates will throw another $100 million, thereby making $150 million in 1 year contribution. That's how important polio is to the Gates Foundation. I'm just going to end with a quick story, and then I'll shut up unless you have questions or time for questions. And I just want to talk about the opportunity I almost never had to become a Rotarian. So I moved to the Dayton area in 2000 to take a job with the local insurance brokerage agency. And then fast forward to 2002, I'm meeting with the CEO of my largest client. It's a large Dayton area company. I won't mention their name because you probably know who they are. He was the club of the Dayton, he was president of the Dayton Rotary. And I didn't really know much about Rotary. I grew up in Northwest Ohio. And by the way, I went to Bowling Green, you Miami University people. But anyways, I grew up in Northwest Ohio, and we had Lions and Jaycees and Kiwanis clubs. So I asked my client, I said, well, tell me about Rotary, and he told me a little bit about it. And I said, well, how do I get involved? And he pretty much said to me, well, Greg, you know, we want the highest ranking person in your office, the most, you know, the person most in charge of your office, and you gotta kind of get known in the community first. So I didn't shrugged it off, didn't think about it much. Fast forward another 4 years later, I'm having lunch with a coworker of my wife who happened to be a Dayton Rotarian. And he says to me, why aren't you in Rotary? And I explained my situation, the story I just told you. And he said, well, that's crazy. You ought to be a Rotarian. I said, I know, I want to be. He goes, I'm going to get you into Rotary. Followed by, but I'm not going to propose you. It was the craziest damn conversation I've ever had. You're inviting me to Rotary, but you're not going to propose me. Why is that? He said, well, you know, my insurance agent's a member of the club and I don't want to upset him. I don't want to upset him. Okay. He goes, well, I'll get someone else to propose you. In fact, I'm going to go to the CEO of that client of yours, the new CEO, and I'm going to get him to propose you, which he did. And that CEO proposed me, and now I became a member of the club. Fortunately for our club, we do a fairly good job of educating or acclimating our club to new members. And we have basically a series of 5 different meetings where we bring them in for breakfast and we teach them all about the club and some stuff about Rotary and, you know, all the different things about Rotary. I call it our Rotary school. So I went through that. But at the end of the year, we asked that group of newbies for the year to have a takeover meeting. They take over the entire meeting, president of the day. We have a secretary, that's who raises our happy bucks. Well, day 10s, we call them in our club, but they have to get a speaker and all that kind of stuff, you know, greeters and everything. So I decided I'd volunteer to be the president of the day. I think it would be easy. I could just delegate. Wasn't exactly true, but you know what? It was fun for me because I got to stand in front of 150 Rotarians that day. And guess what? They got to know Greg Birkemeyer a little bit. And through that, I got invited to start working, you know, being involved in committees, and then got invited to work, you know, be part of the board, eventually to become club president. Became club president, and guess what? The district came calling and said, hey, Greg, would you like to be an assistant governor? And you know what? We Rotarians have a hard time saying no when we're asked like that, right? So I did that and did various district jobs. And then I had a couple past district governors say, why don't you apply to become governor? Which I did. And as you know, I sit here in front of you today. Why do I tell you that story? Well, first of all, I asked about being in Rotary and I was told no originally, right? And fortunately, somebody had the foresight to ask me again, right? So we just have to ask people to be part of our club. And then when I got in the club, I got engaged. My club found a way to get me engaged. And then people started asking me to do things, right? They kept me engaged. And when I got done being club president, which kind of is the end for most of us, you know, in direct involvement in the club other than the projects, is someone came along and invited me to do something in the district. And then someone invited me that I should apply to be district governor. We just have to ask people to do what we need them to do and what we would like them to do and show them how to do it. And guess what? I am still not the most senior person in my organization to this day, but I think I'm better well known because of my Rotary connections, but I'm probably not the most well known in my community. But what I would like to think at the end of the day that I'm a good Rotary leader and a good Rotarian, but I'll let you all be the judge of that come June 30, 2021, when I end my term as your district governor. So thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity. Anything I can do for you, you just have to let me know.
Well, Greg, first of all, everybody, thank you very much. That was terrific. Now, Greg, you said something that perked my interest right away, since I'm a graduate of the University of Toledo.
Oh, I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you, but go ahead.
for those of you who don't know, Toledo and Bowling Green have a long time rivalry. So
right.
Anyway, any questions for Greg?
Yeah, Greg, maybe you or one of your assistants, but of those numbers of people that left membership, how much do you think that was due to the same surprise that it cost to be a Rotarian? Do you do it? Has anyone done any follow-up on the whys or reasons or motivations for joining and then dropping out?
The answer is, I don't know that money was a driving force in most clubs because dues are not that expensive as they are in Dayton or Cincinnati. But having said that, there are, when a Rotarian leaves and it gets entered into the system, the reason for the Rotarian leaving is also put into the system. And I get reports on that, okay? Cost is not one of the checkoff boxes, I guess. What I see a lot of though, and I'm not going to be able to directly answer your question, Lee, but what I see a lot of is personal reasons. And my question always is behind that is, what's the real personal reason? To your point, could it be cost? Or they're just not feeling welcome, or they're just not engaged, or their employer quit paying for it. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Relocation and unfortunately death and things like that are checkoff boxes. Those are easy. Well, I can understand those, but the personal reasons, I see business reasons. That's the other one I see, a lot of business reasons. And that could be they're too busy at work, could be a money thing. I don't have a number to tell you about the cost.
And the second part of that question is, since we're in a state where most people are meeting virtually,
yep.
And we all know that relationships have built the Rotary, how should we be, I don't know there's an answer to this, but how should we be expected to build membership when we're somewhat prohibited from shaking someone's hand and sitting down at a meeting with them?
Yeah. Great question. I should have said this when I was talking about it earlier. I'm not trying to grow our membership in our district this year because of COVID. What I'm trying to do is maintain our membership. Okay. So we started the year at about 2,675 Rotarians in round numbers, a little less than that. I was just trying to maintain that number. But what I know is for every Rotary member we lose, we have to gain one. But your point's well taken. And even in my own club, we had some members who have been members for 30 plus years. I'm thinking of 5 of them who have quit our club because they can't come together in person, because that's what they look forward to. They look forward to getting together with their buddies at lunch on Monday, and shooting the crap and being part of that. That's the friendship and fellowship I talked about earlier. So I'm with you. I don't think we can grow Rotary, but we are negative 102 members this year. So far this Rotary year. And I think a lot of it has to do with COVID. In some clubs they're still charging regular fare, which is causing a problem. So some of the clubs have decided to go ahead and quit, lower dues to try to keep the membership, those kinds of things. So I wish I could give you a more specific answer, but that's best I can do.
The only reason I ask that is I'm in Florida where nothing's shut down and people are, and the club here just inducted 5 new members at their face-to-face meeting. And the other question I have, how many clubs in the district are still having face-to-face meetings?
I know of 2 for sure that are doing face-to-face. They're small clubs and they're having less than 10 members at a meeting. In fact, one of the clubs, if they have more than, they have a reservation process. If they have more than 10 members, they meet in 2 different places and have Zoom or whatever connected between them, so they can have some form of physical, but not have more than 10 people together.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Greg, if I could, and Greg, you can laugh because I'm commenting on his, which I always, whenever I'm speaking to a Rotary and Greg's there, he always has to comment on something I'm saying. So, Lee, I wouldn't say, last night we were on the Rotary Leadership Institute, and a couple of nights ago we were on a pre-pets meeting. And some of the clubs are finding that they're retaining members and getting new members because of their virtual component. That members are finding that it's easier for them to make a meeting if they don't have the drive time to go to a physical location. So some of the clubs are saying even when they can meet in person again, they will retain a visual component of their club because it may be easier for some members to stay in the club that way. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting statistic.
But Heidi, I remember 4 or 5 years ago when I was a district governor in another state, the Rotary started e-clubs. But I've heard in 4 or 5 years, I hear nothing about them, how they've grown, how they failed, how they succeeded. Did that effort falter somewhere? Or are they still out there? And how successful have they been?
Yeah, I'll let Greg answer that one.
Yeah, well, to Heidi's comment, I have 5 clubs that have positive numbers. In other words, they've grown, and all 5 are virtual. Okay. But as to your question about e-clubs are growing even more so in this environment. There was a Rotarian who wanted to start an e-club in this district. I don't want to explain the whole story, but we decided that we would not put that one forward because of what they wanted to do with their e-club. It just didn't fit the Rotary model in the way we should fit the Rotary model. Okay. So there is an e-club out of 6600, which is Northwest Ohio. So they have a very active e-club up there that gets members from all over the world.
Now, by the way, I'd just like to say that we have gotten some new members lately. Several members died last year, but we pretty much made up for those losses. And I think we've had some really valuable speakers, valuable programs, because we can draw people from around the state, around the country. Next week, we have a Briton speaking to us about Brexit and so on. So I personally don't think we're doing badly with virtual meetings at all. I'd love to get back together, but we have to wait out the COVID and all get vaccinated. And after that, I still hope we can do a virtual meeting once in a while because of the various advantages that those do bring.
Yeah, I would encourage you, once you go back to in-person meetings, that continue a virtual component. You know, if you go to Florida for the winter and, you know, you still want to be part of your club, why can't you visit virtually while everybody else is there in person? Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Greg? Greg, we'll be putting a book in the Lane Library in honor of your talk today, and we really appreciate you coming and sharing your information. Mary, thank you. Heidi, thanks for coming. We have a 2-part program today. The second part is